In the great house of the Okoyes lived two young women. One was Amara, their true-born daughter, kind-hearted, steadfast, and quietly brilliant. The other was Zuri, an orphan whom the family had taken in, showered with gifts and affection as though she were their own. But gratitude never bloomed in Zuri's heart. Instead, envy poisoned her spirit. She longed to replace Amara, to stand as the shining daughter while Amara faded into shadow. Through cunning tricks and well-placed lies, she convinced the Okoyes to strip Amara of allowance, to banish her to a dark storage room, and to treat her as though she were less than family. For 3 years, Amara endured, surviving without coin, dignity, or kindness. One day, trouble fell upon the land. Hackers seized the mighty Adeyemi company, locking its mistress away and demanding a ransom of $500,000 in gold. Panic spread through the halls of power. The Okoyes despaired, convinced all was lost. But Amara, carrying nothing but a simple tablet, stepped forward. "Give me 5 minutes," she said. Laughter rose around her. "What can you do with that scrap of metal?" they mocked. Yet Amara broke the hacker's code, freed Mrs. Adeyemi, and saved the company from ruin. The lords of business bowed to her skill, offering riches in thanks. But Amara, true to her heart, took only enough to share with her friend Chinyu. The Okoyes, rather than rejoicing in their daughter's triumph, sought to bind her once more. They accused her of theft, reminded her of her asthma as weakness, and sided with Zuri, who painted herself as the victim. Yet truth cannot be hidden forever. The servants revealed that Zuri had been lavished with an allowance of riches, while Amara, true daughter of the house, had been left penniless in a dungeon. When Amara confronted her family, they mocked her still. Zuri called her a parasite, unworthy of the Okoye name. Amara stood tall and said, "You gave me nothing, yet you claim I owe you everything. For 3 years I lived in your darkness, but today I leave it behind. Consider those years erased." And with that, she left. Zuri and the Okoyes sought to ruin her, blacklisting her name. Yet Amara's spirit was unbroken. From the knowledge she had taught herself in secret hours, days spent fixing machines, nights spent in the library, she built wonders. She created a thinking machine, a brain chart so brilliant that the world took notice. Great companies and investors called her a revolutionary, a genius, a visionary. Even Obinna, her brother who once mocked her gift of running shoes, discovered the truth. Amara had run a marathon nearly to collapse just to win him those shoes as a birthday gift. His heart ached with regret. Meanwhile, the mask of Zuri began to slip. Jewelry she claimed Amara had stolen was found in her own hands. Amara's forgotten asthma inhaler proved her years of suffering were real. Yet still Zuri schemed, for without Amara's shadow, she could never be fully loved. Amara, however, no longer sought their love. She took the name Okafor, the name she once bore in her lonely orphanage years, and made it a crown. No longer bound to the Okoyes, she rose higher than they ever dreamed. Leaders, innovators, and visionaries sought her counsel, while the Okoyes, who once cast her aside, stood in shame, realizing too late that their true daughter had been their greatest treasure. Zuri, the orphan who betrayed, fell into disgrace. Amara, the true daughter, rose from shadows to brilliance. For envy builds only ruin, but endurance and truth light the path to greatness. Amara had finally found her stride. After years of being dismissed as a nobody, she stood on the brink of something extraordinary. Her AI, brain chart, was no ordinary program. It understood human intention, not just words. And now, with Sophie Adeyemi and Joe Adeyemi backing her, the world was watching. Yet even in her moment of triumph, shadows from the past still clung to her. Obinna Okoye had come to her doorstep, flowers in hand and guilt weighing heavy on his face. "Amara," he pleaded, "come home. I'll make sure you have a real room, a real place in this family." But Amara's voice was sharp as a blade. "You mean that storage facility you locked me in for 3 years? Enough. You think flowers and half-baked apologies can erase the beatings, the scraps, the humiliation? No, Obinna. Some stains don't wash out so easily." He hung his head. "I hate myself for what we did. Zuri lied, about the jewelry, about everything. You were innocent. Please, just let me make it up to you." But Amara turned away. You only see the truth now because the world does too. But I don't need your pity, or your family." Her health gave out before her resolve did. One evening, she collapsed on the street, her frail body reminding everyone of the torment she had endured in the Okoye home. At the hospital, the doctor's words were damning. "Severe anemia. Malnutrition. This young woman's body is running on fumes. I've never seen someone this starved and neglected who's still alive." Obinna and the others tried to defend themselves, but the truth was undeniable. Zuri had thrived on luxury, while Amara, the true daughter, had been treated worse than a servant. Still, Amara pushed through her weakness with quiet determination. "Thanks for covering my bill," she said to her friend, pressing money into his hand. "Family doesn't keep score, right? But I'm not going back with them. That house nearly killed me." Her words were final. Meanwhile, Brainchart's launch loomed closer. Sophie Adeyemi and Joe Adeyemi saw in Amara what the Okoye had squandered, a brilliant mind, unbroken by cruelty. "Amara," Sophie told her, "I'm not investing in a product. I'm investing in you." Her heart steadied. This was her new family, one that valued her not for blood or appearances, but for who she truly was. At the same time, the Okoye group crumbled. Their platform, Meetup, was failing without Amara's code to sustain it. Servers went dark, users fled in anger, and investors pulled their money. Panic consumed Sam Okoye. "Zuri," he barked. "You've been working on this project for months. Fix it." But Zuri's skills were smoke and mirrors. She couldn't save them. Obinna suggested a desperate plan. "Dad, we need Miss Okafor, the mysterious founder of Brainchart. If we can recruit her, maybe we can win back the investors." Sam nodded grimly. "Do whatever it takes. Money is no object." The night of the Brainchart launch arrived. The Adeyemi Group's ballroom glittered with the world's most powerful innovators. Zuri and Obinna slipped inside, hoping to find this mysterious genius. But fate had a cruel sense of humor. "Oh, Miss Okafor," a guest exclaimed. "The founder of Brainchart." Obinna and Zuri turned, only to see Amara standing there in a sleek black dress, confidence radiating from her. Obinna's jaw dropped. Zuri's face turned pale. "Amara," Zuri hissed, "what are you doing here? Are you trying to embarrass the Okoye name at such an important event?" Amara's lips curved into a cold smile. "Don't worry, Zuri. I wouldn't want the Okoye name to embarrass me." The words struck like lightning. Sam Okoye stormed forward, rage trembling in his voice. "You little—" But Joe Adeyemi stepped in, his hand protective at Amara's side. "Careful, Mr. Okoye. You're standing in the way of tonight's honored guest. Without Amara, Miss Okafor, this entire event wouldn't exist." The room fell silent. Murmurs spread like wildfire. The Okoyes had discarded their own flesh and blood, and she had risen higher than they could ever dream. Zuri's facade cracked. For the first time, the orphan who had stolen Amara's place realized the truth. Her lies could no longer hold. And Amara, the true daughter, finally stood in the light where she belonged. The ballroom had grown tense, every pair of eyes trained on the chaos unfolding. Sam Okoye's voice shook with fury as he tried to command the scene, but the tides had shifted. For years, he had dismissed Amara as nothing, an outcast, a servant, a shadow. Now she stood in the spotlight, unveiled as Miss Okafor, the genius behind Brainchart, and the Adeyemi family's most valuable partner. "Amara, don't fall for their schemes," Sam begged, his voice trembling with desperation. "Whatever they're offering, I'll do more. You're my daughter. The Okoye Group is your rightful home." Amara's eyes hardened. "Let me make myself crystal clear. You had the chance to support me when I scrubbed your floors, fixed your mistakes, and, oh yes, built your empire. But instead, you locked me in a basement and let Zuri live my life. I'm not crawling back to you. I'm building my own empire." Zuri snapped, unable to contain her bitterness. "Don't act so righteous. You're still just the unwanted daughter, the mistake." Sophie Adeyemi's voice cut like a knife. "Enough. The only mistake here was the Okoye family's cruelty. Amara is the one with integrity, brilliance, and vision. And unlike your bug-ridden mess of a platform, she delivers." She turned to her staff with a sharp nod. "Effective immediately, Adeyemi Group is pulling all funding from Okoye." The room gasped. Investors murmured in disbelief, already distancing themselves from the Okoyes. Sam staggered, as if the ground had been ripped from under him. Zuri clung to his arm, her face pale. "Daddy, say something. Stop them." But before Sam could speak, Sophie's gaze narrowed. "And one more thing. I don't take kindly to people who mistreat their own blood. Which brings me to a question. Why is it that Zuri was paraded as your real daughter, while Amara, your true heir, was locked away like trash?" The words dropped like a hammer. Murmurs spread through the crowd. The truth was out. Sam's mouth opened, but no sound came. Obinna looked down in shame. And Zuri froze, her carefully woven lie unraveling before the world. Amara straightened her shoulders. "That's right. I am Amara Okoye, the daughter you cast aside. And Zuri? She was the orphan you replaced me with. You thought she could shine brighter, but look at her now. Lies don't last forever." Zuri's eyes widened in horror as the crowd turned on her, whispers hissing like flames. "Adopted? She isn't even their blood." Sophie Adeyemi gave a cold, final glance at the Okoyes. "Security! Escort them out. Adeyemi Group stands with Amara, and Amara alone." Sam tried to protest, but the guards closed in. Zuri's mask cracked as she thrashed. "No. I'm the daughter. Not her. Not her." But no one listened. For the first time, Amara stood untouchable. The truth had freed her. The family who had betrayed her was finished. And the empire she was building would never again be tied to the name Okoye. Joe's voice softened as his fingers hovered just above Amara's skin, afraid to touch the painful reminders etched across her body. "How could a family do this to their own daughter?" he whispered, his chest tightening at the sight. Amara pulled her sleeve back down, her expression steady but tired. "Joe, I already died once. These scars, they feel like a century ago. They don't control me anymore. They should never have existed in the first place," he shot back, his tone laced with anger. "They let Zuri take everything from you, while you were left with nothing but pain. And she isn't even their blood. You are. You were always the rightful daughter." For a moment, silence hung between them, broken only by Amara's quiet exhale. "That's the cruelest part, isn't it? They cast me aside for an orphan who wore my place like a crown. But Zuri can't rewrite blood. No matter how many lies she spins, the truth is out now." Zuri's voice suddenly pierced the memory, echoing in Amara's head. "I admit it. I'm a worthless nobody." Amara closed her eyes, shaking the thought away. Zuri wasn't finished. She never would be. For every humiliation, for every time she had been exposed, Zuri would claw her way back, hungrier and more dangerous than before. Joe reached for her hand, firm and unwavering. "Listen to me. You've been abandoned your whole life, Amara, but not by me. Not anymore. You're the most precious treasure in this world to me. And I don't care about scars, they only prove how strong you are." Her lips trembled, the mask of strength threatening to crack. "Even with these scars, Joe, they're terrifying, aren't they?" "No," he said without hesitation. "What's terrifying is that they tried to bury you alive, and you rose anyway. That's what scares them, Amara. That's why Zuri will never win. Because you are the real daughter, the true heir, and she's only ever been an imposter." Amara finally allowed herself a fragile smile. For once, she wasn't the girl begging to be seen. She was the one holding the light. And Zuri, watching from the shadows, felt her world crumble, because for the first time, the lie she lived was slipping beyond repair. Obinna's face went pale as the ring glimmered in his palm. His eyes darted to Amara, then back at the tiny inscription inside, R+M. His breath caught. This is Amara's. Not Zuri's. All these years, we've been living a lie." Zuri's eyes widened, panic flashing in them for the first time. "No, that's not true. Obinna, don't listen to her. I pulled you out of that car. I saved you, me. She reached forward desperately, as if she could snatch the ring back and erase the truth with her bare hands. But Chinyu, the Adeyemi matriarch, stepped between them. Her voice was sharp, unyielding. Enough, Zuri. This ring proves what Amara has been saying all along. She is the true Okoye's daughter. You were the orphan they took in. You've been hiding behind Amara's light for years, twisting the truth to make yourself look like the savior. Amara stood frozen, her scars and memories pressing against her like heavy chains. For years she had been treated like an intruder, punished, shamed, cast aside. And all this time, the truth was locked away in a simple band of silver that Zuri had stolen. Sam Okoye tumbled forward, his face ashen. This can't be. All these years I thought, his voice cracked. Zuri, did you know about this? Did you? Zuri's composure broke. So what if I did? She screamed, tears streaking down her face. I was nothing. Just another nameless girl in an orphanage. I had no family, no name, no future. Then I saw my chance, and I took it. You would have thrown me back if you knew the truth. Her words hung heavy in the air, ugly and raw. Obinna stared at her, horrified. You let Amara suffer, starve, be beaten, blamed for everything, all so you could live her life? Zuri's voice lowered, venom seeping through her tone. And I'd do it again. Because Amara doesn't deserve it. She never did. She's weak. She's pathetic. And now you all worship her because of some engraving on a ring. Amara finally lifted her chin, her eyes hard but steady. No, Zuri. I'm not weak. I survived everything you and your lies threw at me. And I don't need your approval, or theirs, anymore. The truth has spoken for itself. Sam sank into a chair, his world collapsing around him. All this time, we abandoned our real daughter and protected a stranger. His voice was hollow, broken. Zuri's trembling hand dropped to her side, her last weapon stripped away. The mask she had worn for years was gone. And for the first time, everyone in that room saw her for what she truly was. Not a savior, not a sister, just an orphan who had stolen another girl's place. Amara turned toward the door, Joe waiting there silently. She didn't look back. For the first time in her life, she was walking out not as the outcast, but as the rightful heir, to her name, her work, and her future. And Zuri? She stood in the wreckage of her lies, screaming at a family that no longer believed her. Harry's voice trembled as he held up the ring, the truth shining brighter than the jewel itself. It's Amara's. It's always been Amara's. We've been tormenting her for 3 years while she was the one who saved our lives. Obinna, she's our real sister. Not Zuri. Obinna's face hardened as the puzzle pieces fell into place. And it wasn't Amara sneaking into the room and stealing. It was you, Zuri. All those years of lies, of blaming her. His voice cracked, equal parts fury and heartbreak. We trusted you. We loved you. Zuri only laughed bitterly, her mask of sweetness long gone. Yes, I lied. I'm a snake. But what did your judgment ever give you? You were so eager to believe me because it was easier to hate Amara than to face your own cruelty. I didn't create the monster in this house. You did. Her words left a bitter silence, but the damage was done. For once, no one was defending Zuri. Her place in the Okoye's family crumbled into dust, and she knew it. Days later, Zuri reappeared at Amara's door with desperate eyes and stolen money. Amara, I know we've fought, but I've got money now, lots of it. Let me in. We can use it against the Okoyes. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Amara's expression was cold. That money you stole from the Okoyes? No. You're not my ally, Zuri. You're a parasite. And with a single gesture, David, her partner in crime, was led away in handcuffs. Zuri's final gambit had failed. Soon after, the Okoyes themselves came. Rain or shine, they had been showing up, begging for her forgiveness. At last, Obinna stood before her, his eyes brimming with guilt. Amara, we know everything. You built Meetup. You saved me and Harry from that crash. You gave this family everything. And we kicked you out. Please, come home. Her father's voice cracked for the first time in years. My girl. I was blind. I trusted the wrong person, and I failed to shield you. Forgive me, Amara. I regret it every single day." Even her mother wept openly, reaching for her. "Please, come back with us." Amara's eyes softened for a moment, but then she shook her head. "You didn't just make a mistake. You abandoned me. You believed a stranger over your own daughter. And now, when I've built something of my own, you suddenly remember me." She straightened, her voice firm. "I've already found my real family. The Adeyemi Group stood by me when you cast me out. That is my home now." She turned away, Joe waiting for her with quiet pride. The Okoye's pleas followed her, but Amara did not look back. For the first time, she wasn't the discarded daughter begging for love. She was the rightful heir who chose her own destiny. Behind her, Zuri screamed and clawed at the ruins of her false life, while the Okoyes were left in the ashes of their betrayal. Amara, at last, walked free. The Adeyemi Group office gleamed with light, the glass walls reflecting Amara's calm determination. What once had been a dream, whispered into the void of loneliness, was now a reality. Chinyu Adeyemi walked at her side, her tone proud yet gentle. "Amara, you've built something extraordinary. BrainChart isn't just a product, it's a revolution. And it's yours. The Okoyes tried to bury you, but you rose." Amara smiled faintly, her scars still visible but no longer heavy chains. They were proof of her survival. Investors gathered eagerly around her, not because of her family name but because of her brilliance. Every presentation ended with applause. Every launch broke new records. Amara was no longer the abandoned daughter, she was the mind the world was chasing. Meanwhile, the Okoyes began to rot from within. Without Amara's algorithms, their projects collapsed one after another. Zuri's schemes had left them riddled with debt. The media feasted on scandal after scandal, dragging the once proud Okoye name through the mud. Harry and Obinna, burdened with guilt, fought desperately to keep the company alive, but it was like trying to stop a dam from breaking with bare hands. At a press conference, Sam Okoye's voice trembled as reporters demanded answers. We are restructuring." But everyone knew the truth. Okoye Industries was falling, and its shame was public. In contrast, Amara's face appeared on every headline, not as a disgraced heiress but as the visionary founder of BrainChart. She spoke of compassion in technology, of innovation born not from privilege but from resilience. Young entrepreneurs called her an inspiration. Families called her a role model. Zuri, stripped of her stolen life, drifted in the shadows, watching Amara's star rise higher every day. Envy consumed her, but the world no longer listened to Zuri's voice. She was a ghost, while Amara shone. One evening, as the Adeyemi Group hosted a gala in Amara's honor, Chinyu raised a glass. "To Amara Okoye, the daughter the world almost lost, but the daughter the world will never forget again." The room erupted in applause. Amara stood tall, her eyes meeting Joe's across the room. For the first time, she allowed herself to breathe freely. She had no need to look back at the crumbling Okoye mansion. That chapter was over. Amara had chosen her family, her future, and her own name. The Okoye had cast her out to die, but she rose higher than any of them could ever dream. The once proud Okoye estate stood silent, its marble floors echoing with emptiness. Creditors had come and gone, stripping the house bare. Priceless paintings were hauled out in crates, cars were repossessed, even the chandeliers were sold at auction. The Okoye's name, once whispered with respect, was now dragged through the tabloids as a symbol of greed, pride, and ruin. Obinna sat in the darkened study, staring at the empty shelves where Amara's books once Saturday. "We lost everything," he whispered, his voice hoarse. Harry, sitting across from him, slammed his fist against the desk. "No. We didn't just lose it. We threw it away when we threw her away." Their father, Sam Okoye, was a shadow of his former self. His commanding voice had become a broken rasp, muttering excuses to anyone who would listen. The market was against us, investors betrayed us, but deep down, even he knew the truth, he had betrayed his own blood. And that betrayal had cost him everything. Mrs. Okoye wept quietly in her room, clutching at an empty jewelry box. The necklace she once accused Amara of stealing had long since been pawned, a cruel reminder of how blind she had been. "My little girl, my real little girl," she whispered, but her apologies were swallowed by the silence. Zuri, the adopted daughter who once manipulated her way into their hearts, had long vanished. She left behind nothing but scars and debts. Some whispered she had fled abroad, others said she was hiding in shame. To the Okoyes, it didn't matter. Her lies had been the knife that cut their family apart. Meanwhile, the world watched Amara thrive. Every headline about the Adeyemi Group's success seemed to highlight the Okoye's collapse. From outcast to visionary, Amara Okoye's rise stood side by side with Okoye Industries declares bankruptcy. At the final foreclosure, as officials locked the gates to the Okoye mansion, neighbors whispered, "That house belonged to Amara all along. They cast out their true daughter, and now it's nothing but dust." For the Okoye, there was no redemption, no return to glory. Their legacy was gone, swallowed by their pride and blindness. And Amara. She didn't attend the foreclosure. She didn't need to. The fall of the Okoye was no longer her burden, it was their punishment. While they lost everything, Amara built an empire, proving that the daughter they had once abandoned was the only true heir all along. The Okoye's mansion, once the symbol of power and wealth, became nothing more than an empty shell. Its grand halls were silent, its windows dark. Weeds crept through the gates, and the world passed it by without a second glance. Once, the Okoyes were feared and envied. Now, they were forgotten. Sam Okoye, who had built his empire on arrogance, spent his final days in the shadows of old offices that no longer bore his name. Investors who once bowed to him now crossed the street to avoid eye contact. His voice, once commanding, was reduced to bitter whispers no one cared to hear. Mrs. Okoye no longer wore her glittering gowns. Instead, she drifted quietly through the remnants of her life, holding on to memories she could never fix. She often sat by the window, watching families walk past with laughter. Each time, she thought of Amara, the laughter they had stolen from her, the love they had refused to give. But her regret came too late. Obinna and Harry, once so certain of their loyalty to Zuri, now lived in small apartments, away from the spotlight. They kept their heads down, carrying the weight of guilt no amount of time could erase. They didn't speak much of Amara, not because they forgot her, but because they remembered her too well. And Zuri? She disappeared into the fog of the world, her name no longer on anyone's lips. The girl who once thrived on manipulation and lies became nothing more than a fading rumor. Meanwhile, Amara's light only grew brighter. With the Adeyemi Group at her side, she traveled the world, speaking at global summits, creating technology that connected people in ways the Okoyes never could. Each stage she walked onto, each round of applause she earned, carried the weight of triumph, not out of revenge, but out of perseverance. And though Amara never turned back to see what had become of the Okoyes, the world knew. The daughter they had abandoned had risen beyond anything they could imagine, while they quietly faded into history's forgotten margins. Theirs was a name that once opened doors but now held no meaning. Hers was a name that built futures. And so, without hatred, without bitterness, Amara left them where they belonged, in the shadows of the past, while she carved a legacy that would never be forgotten. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments about what you took away from it, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories. Thank you for watching.